So I wanted to first start off by reiterating what Heather said and thanking you guys for joining us. We've been working really hard over the last year or so, spending time with families as well as to providers to develop a service that will broaden our eligibility for OT and PT, as well as create a service that ensures all children get the right service at the right time, in the right amount, and in the right place. So we've really excited that you're here today to hear about it and see what we've come up with. The other thing to point out is that all this information is now available on the CTN website afterwards, and I'll explain where that is in a bit. But if you want to look at any of the documents further, they're all uploaded there for you that you can access at any time, as well as that's likely where we'll put this webinar after today. So CTN recognized the need to evolve our hosted OT and PT services. So we spent over a year doing research and listening and collecting information from a lot of our stakeholders, specifically our families and our frontline providers, which are those therapists that you and your children see regularly. When all that information was collected, there were some really obvious themes that surfaced. Families and providers told us that child and families need a range of intervention approaches. What is available needs to be clear, consistent, and transparent. Families need ongoing connection to the OT-PT service, so different supports at different times as they grow and change. That there are a lot of children with neuromotor disabilities who should be eligible for services, but we're not currently able to access anything. And that location and times of service availability need to be flexible. So to address the identified needs, we decided to do two things. The first one was broaden our eligibility criteria for hosted OT and PT services. And the second was to broaden our standardized service options across all of our therapy providers, by creating and following the service pathway. So the ultimate goal of all of this is that children receive the right service at the right time, the right amount, in the right place, while ensuring the service is consistent and transparent. We are planning to initiate these changes in September this year, so just in a couple of weeks, but we'll do that with a staged rollout plan, which I'll explain later on in the presentation. So the criteria for OT and PT that CTN has used in the past was based on the need for mobility devices, whether that's a walker or a wheelchair, or significant support with hand and arm use. We used the gross motor functional classification system and the manual ability classification system to determine if kids were eligible. Now, both of these classification systems are evidence-based and they're supported by a lot of research. However, we also became aware that there were children who would benefit from our services, so we have changed the criteria accordingly. Once we implement this new criteria and the service pathway, CTN will provide occupational therapy and physiotherapy to children from birth to school exit who have functional limitations resulting from neuromotor, neuromuscular, degenerative, or chronic musculoskeletal conditions. So this increases the amount of children eligible to receive services. For example, a child with cerebral palsy who is able to walk without any assistive devices but is having an orthopedic surgery, for example, a common muscle lengthening, would previously not have been able to access services through CTN after surgery. Now they will be, and we will be able to follow that child as they develop to address any other emerging concerns. In order to support the new criteria and to enhance our services, we have developed an OT and PT service pathway, which will help families and providers understand the journey through CTN services. We will also ensure that those services are consistent across CTN and in line with our intervention, vision, and principles and beliefs. So as I mentioned earlier, the ultimate vision of the new pathway is to optimize functional outcomes for children with special needs by providing the right intervention in the right amount, at the right time, and in the right location. When developing our services, we wanted to ensure they aligned with certain principles that CTN stands behind. As with anything we do, we wanted to ensure that services were family-centered. Family-centered practice is a partnership approach to healthcare decision-making between the family and the healthcare provider. Family-centered care recognizes that in most cases, the family is the one constant factor in the life of the child, and that the family is at the center of the child's life. It also identifies and builds on a family's existing strengths and emphasizes and promotes strengthening the parents and the family's ability to promote the child's development. Our new pathway is built around the F words of childhood disability framework. The F words of childhood disability are words that reflect some of the most important aspects of childhood development: function, family, fitness, friends, fun, and future. They were first published in 2012 by Can Child's Dr. Rosenbaum and Dr. Gorcher, but are now used internationally when working with children with disabilities and their families. CTN supports families and clients by focusing on the 6 F's throughout the programming. We also wanted to ensure intervention is provided based on the functional needs of clients. We understand that clients and families have different needs at different times, and our intervention should change to reflect those needs. The intervention we provide needs to be based on and supported by evidence. And we want to ensure our intervention is equitable for all families across the CTN geography, which includes all of Simcoe County and York Region. As CTN believes in family-centered care and that the family is the center of any child's life, this means they make the largest impact on their child, and for that reason, family participation in intervention is critical to maximize our outcomes. In order to ensure families and caregivers can use intervention strategies, coaching is a component of all of our intervention approaches. In developing this system, CTN wants to maximize service, but also minimize duplication. We're not aiming to reproduce what already exists. We also believe that families deserve to receive timely assessments, and we will work with our agencies to keep all wait lists to a minimum. So this is our new service delivery pathway. We'll take some time to walk through it now. So children typically enter the pathway through the left-hand side, which represents our early intervention program. And then they move through to the right as a child moves into and out of school. Across the top are 4 intervention themes, which I will discuss a little bit more in a moment. The next level is our main OTPT program, the Growth and Development Program, followed by our intervention options available at CTN. The bottom 2 gray boxes represent programs and community partners that may be involved throughout a child's development. They have an influence on their OT and PT, but they are a separate program or organization. Using our new pathway, once families are referred to OT and or PT, they will enter the system through the new Growth and Development Program. This will be a clinic visit at one of our CTN sites where they will meet their therapy team. The team will lead them through a discussion to learn about the child, family, and the 6 F's as they relate to them. They will complete a physical assessment if it's needed. However, a full physical evaluation will not always be indicated. During the growth and development visit, the team will work with the family to develop goals and decide if any intervention is needed. At that time, if any intervention is needed at the time, and if so, what that intervention should look like. At times, family may need a lot of support, and the team will set them up with programs such as group intervention, community assessment, and maybe a parent workshop as well. But at other times, a family may express that things are going well and they don't have any urgent needs. The point is that the intervention provided should meet the needs of the client and the family at that specific time. No matter how much intervention is provided between visits, families will continue to be involved in the growth and development program until they leave CTN. When a growth and development or G&D visit is over, a family should know when their next G&D visit or checkup is, or who to call when they need one. Families should think of the growth and development program like a checkup with their physician. It's important to know that this growth and development program is a new model and should not be confused with previous things we have run before. The frequency of growth and development visits will change based on how the client and family is doing. Below the Growth and Development Program, you will see all of CTN's intervention approaches. These include options such as activity-based intervention, which involves embedding therapy techniques into everyday routines, group programs, and episodic intervention, which provides an intense dose of therapy at key times in a child's life. Therapists will work with families to decide what is best for them at that time. A description of all the different types of intervention approaches and examples of each, which were developed with us by our Family Engagement Council, can be found on our website. Simply need to go to www.ctnsy.ca, and then if you click on the Program and Services tab, and then Occupational Therapy and Physiotherapy Service, you'll see all of this information up there. There's a downloadable intervention guide, which gives the explanation of all these different programs. Earlier, I mentioned the 4 different colored headings across the top. So these titles help us identify areas of focus for intervention throughout a child's development. They're not written in stone, nor are the age limits definite. They act more of a guide to remind us of areas of child development and possible interventions during that time. This slide shows a few examples from each title. However, a full description can also be found and downloaded from the CTN website. Once therapists and families begin following this new service pathway, plan is that there will be an increase in the approaches to intervention available. Intervention will be determined based on the functional needs of the clients. Coaching will be embedded into all intervention types. We are aiming to have groups set up to increase opportunities for intervention as well as social development. And families will have access to the Growth and Development Program throughout their childhood until graduation from high school. The change in criteria will mean that more children will be seen for OT and PT. To ensure a smooth transition and minimize wait lists, we are implementing these changes in a staged format. So this September 2018, just a couple of weeks from now, all clients receiving OT and PT through CTN will move to the new service pathway. There's nothing you need to do about it aside from attending this webinar and becoming familiar with the pathway. Your providers will be contacting you for your first growth and development appointment. Remember, they do need to schedule these with everyone on their caseload, so it may take some time to get everyone seen in this format. In the meantime, if there's any other needs, please continue to contact and interact with your therapist as you have done so in the past. CTN therapists are committed to making sure all clients' needs are met during this transition period. In September 2018, we are also broadening our criteria to the new one for children's age 0 to 6 years of age. Staging the broadening of the criteria will help our teams accept and take care of their new clients while minimizing wait lists. The plan is to expand our new eligibility to older criteria in very early 2019. To ensure we're meeting needs, we will be evaluating the changes we are implementing. And we're going to do this in several ways, including family and provider surveys, looking at workload statistics and measurements, and as well as doing some chart audits. Following this presentation, or I think actually tomorrow morning, you'll be sent a link for a quick family satisfaction survey. We'd really appreciate it if anyone could take 5 minutes to fill it out. It's pretty quick, but what that will do will give us a baseline information. So the answers that you give should be based on your services over the last year. So we'd really appreciate as many responses to that as we can get to make sure we're making a difference with our new model. So I tried to make this not too long as families are all busy. So I am gonna stop it here, but then open it up for questions. So we should have lots of time. And anything we can't get to today, again, I will, or if I need to get any more information for you to answer any specific questions, my email is on the bottom of this screen. You can just send me an email and I will make sure that it gets, or to Heather, which I think she's put into the box. and then we'll get